Hello, everybody, and thank you for tuning in to the Indiana State Police Roadshow. I'm your host, Sergeant John Perrine, State Police Indianapolis, PIO, and my guest today is a regular on the show for Sergeant Ron Galvez from PIO downtown.
Good morning.
And a newly appointed, promoted PIO from the Jasper District, Sergeant Dave Henderson. Dave, thanks for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Move the mic up a little closer to you there. There we go. All right, so you're looking at us at a different angle today, and you might be wondering what's going on. Well, we know, I've said it several times over the past, but our good friend Tom Trial, who usually does the incredible production that you see on YouTube every week, has taken some time off work. And so we can't wait to get him back. But for now, this is what you get. And we're doing the best we can. I hope you can hear us, hope you can see us, but we're going to get through this and introduce you to our new PIO, Dave Henderson. So Dave, welcome to PIO.
Thank you for having me.
I'm sure, like both of us when we started, it's kind of like drinking from a fire hose at first.
Yes.
But let's hear where it all started. Dave, take us back. You're from the 50th recruit class, so you've 25 years on the department.
That's correct.
Take us through it all, man.
I came out of the 50th recruit class with Ron and went to Jasper right off the bat. I've been a detective, a crime scene investigator. I was a pops unit for a while too.
Okay. And then out of nowhere, you say, "Hey, I want to be the PIO."
I'd always had a interest in being a PIO. When I was first on, there was a PIO at Jasper, Norm Weber.
Oh,
They
wow.
was called Stormin' Norman.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a legend down there. So I always thought this would
So
be an
following in his
interesting job.
footsteps there. a
That's
little.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So again, if you're like me, I can speak. Is I had no idea what PIO was. Like from the outside looking in, I thought, you show up, you to the crash scene, you talk to the cameras for a few minutes, and you leave. And boy, was I wrong. Is that kind of what you're learning too?
Absolutely. I didn't know the ins and outs of all this and how dynamic it was going to be compared to what it looks like from the outside.
That's
looking
right.
in.
Yeah, because the time you see on the news or the news releases or all that, a news release that is short and sweet maybe took us 2 or 3 hours to compile, because you got to get all this information and confirm it, and it's just a lot of work sometimes.
That's correct. And coming from the detective side, the investigation side, to the PIO side is totally different what we put in, put out.
Yeah, so Ron, talk about kind of, again, that perception of what public information officers do versus the reality.
And I always joke when, especially with the recruits, I said, when I was sitting in your seat and they would have said, "Ron, 15 years from now, you will be the Fort Wayne District PIO," I would have laughed.
Right.
I would have thought, there's no way. I don't want to be in front of the TV, in front of a microphone. I'm happy to hand out stickers. But yeah, there is a misperception out there, and I'm sure Dave's phone is probably going to ring a little bit more now than it did when you were a detective, and I'm sure it rang quite a bit then.
Yes.
So, but again, he talked about what's being put out. He's got to be so in that mindset of detail in what he's writing, whereas now it's not quite so much, because there's certain things that legally we have to release, but got to be very careful too. So, but again, on the perception side, he is now the face of the Jasper District, and people are going to look to him. They're going to recognize him, even though they probably already do, being from there, being down there 25 years, but he'll have a whole new captive audience that he didn't realize that he had to begin with.
Something that's unique about Jasper geographically is, when you were in Fort Wayne, it was pretty much Fort Wayne media. Mm-hmm. Here in Indianapolis, 90% of what I do is Indianapolis media. Jasper's kind of out in the middle. They've got Louisville media, they've got Evansville media, they've got Indianapolis media, They've got, so that's probably a different challenge.
Yes, and it's been a great mix of different locations and different people to meet so far, and I've enjoyed that. My lieutenant's very supportive of what we do, and we try to put the positive side out and let people know what our troopers are doing on a day-to-day basis.
So how are you feeling about the whole social media side of it? Are you good at social media? Have you done that in the past?
Pretty good at Facebook, but Twitter, I'm trying to get a handle on that.
Okay. Yeah, so when I took the job, I didn't know anything about Twitter. Never even really been on it, and I found it to be my favorite pretty quickly. Once I learned what an @@ symbol is and how the hashtags work. And
I had no idea what the hashtags and all that were about.
Yeah. But I tell you, once I got in the groove, I prefer Twitter over Facebook, just personally for this job.
Yep. I agree. I'm the same way. I'm not a big Facebook guy, even though the older population. I should not. I hope that's not. Doesn't offend anybody, but the baby boomers are the biggest growing population on there, and I'm like you. I'm a Twitter guy because I can say what I want in 200 plus characters,
simple,
and it's quick and
it
it's
stays
right
in
now.
order, and it's nice.
It's amazed me how people really want to know what we're doing. and what we put out really matters to some of these people.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, the news media wants to know, and the public wants to know what we're doing, and
Sure.
the good things.
You're right, and sometimes a trooper will do something, make an arrest that to them is just another arrest. But when we find out about it and do a news release, it turns into a good positive story, and that's kind of what we need.
And it's even above and beyond. You know this very well. It's above and beyond the press releases. It's the photos. To give you an example, this past week, Sergeant Brian Walker, the PIO of the Fort Wayne Post, tweeted out a photo that was given to him by one of our troopers, who was running to a call at night and struck a deer. In fact, the deer actually struck another car. Another car struck the deer coming the opposite way, flung the deer into this trooper's windshield, ended up in the driver's seat, or passenger seat, I'm sorry, of his police car.
Yeah, I saw those photos.
You know, and so it's one of those things, and that thing just grew legs and exploded.
Well, I'm saying it's one of those simple things that without a visual,
Mhm.
that's not much, right?
Right.
That story is just a trooper hitting a deer.
Right.
But when you see the pictures, you think, my goodness, if there would have been a passenger in there, this would have been a different story.
You know, and Ann Wojcik, Sergeant Wojcik, who had her last official day here earlier this week, up in Lowell, she was the queen of that shit. All kinds of stuff always happened up
Yeah.
there. You know, a semi-load full of bagels caught fire on the side of the interstate, or
Right.
you know, all these things that she's able to put out. That next thing you know, you're looking on like TV eyes as an example, Los Angeles, California, in Lowell, Indiana. You know, this and this happened. So you know, it's pretty amazing how that works out.
Well, and what I'm learning is having something visual is everything now, and that's kind of what we're talking about. Is if you put something on Twitter or Facebook and you can attach an image to it of any kind, it's more likely to be seen.
Right.
And so I've seen a statistic even that says it's 40% more likely to be seen if you attach an image of some sort. So
That's one thing I've had to learn, is try to attach an image to everything I put out.
right.
Because people do. They want to see what we're doing and know what's going on.
Yeah, and sometimes there's not really a relatable image that you have on file, but just put a picture of a car or a state police symbol or a sign or something, and that goes a long way.
Right.
So what do you, outside of dealing with the media, the PIOs get to do some programs and things, and so what part of that do you enjoy when you get to go to the programs in the schools and things like that?
I really like to talk to people, and I enjoy the interaction with people and telling them what the state police do, and promoting, what we do on a day-to-day basis isn't what they think we do. And when you can put it out there and tell them how we're helping the public and helping the population of the area, it's really, I find it really rewarding to me.
Yeah. And
You know, when I got to Fort Wayne, well, I was in Fort Wayne before that, obviously, but there were two other large law enforcement agencies up there, Fort Wayne PD and the Allen County Sheriff's Department. So the state police in Fort Wayne, we were a little bit, less populated fish in a large law enforcement pond,
yeah.
but our footprint was no less insignificant than theirs.
Right.
So it was just to say, hey, don't forget about us. We're here, and here are the things that we're doing too, in a larger metropolitan area.
Yeah.
And people would be like, wow, I didn't even know the state police was here, let alone did these types of investigations. I thought you guys were just on the highway writing tickets. Well, we are, but we do these other things in not only as lead agency, but also supplementing what these other large agencies are doing.
Yeah, I saw a statistic recently, and it's probably one of those statistics that somebody makes up, but it makes sense. It says 95% of the positive, good things that police officers do, you never hear about. But almost 90% of the bad things they do, you do hear about. And so that tips the scale on the public perception. That's why it's so important as PIOs to keep putting those positive things out there, because we want people to see that 99.9% of us that wear this badge are doing this job for the right reasons, and our intention is to help and to be good stewards to our communities.
Yep, absolutely. Not only that, but I always preach that we're walking on the coattails of those that came before us, like Storm and Norman.
Yep.
Yeah.
And hopefully we're laying out those coattails for somebody else to this next recruit class to walk on and carry the torch forward when we're long retired and sitting on our porches watching the world go by.
One of the hardest things that I had to overcome, and you're probably dealing with it too, especially being a detective for so long, is changing your writing style from writing a PC affidavit or a report to writing something for the public to read.
Yeah. Like Brian and I had already talked about, what we can release, what we can't release, what we're legally bound to release.
Yep.
And I take all that into account. So it has been a big change for me, but I really enjoy it.
And and we talk all the time. Retired Captain Dave Burson always said it best. There was always things that people want to know, but what do they have the right to know?
Yeah.
And so we're always balancing that. But fortunately, state law really really sets that boundary for us.
Yeah, and in a world where information travels so fast, we have to be right because there's not time to correct it.
Right.
So when we get information out there, some people want it now. What they don't understand is we can't be wrong on information that we release, and so it takes a little bit a while to confirm, especially when it comes to names and locations, all these things that we have to take so much into account. The public thinks we're hiding something,
Right.
but we're trying to confirm.
And Dave can probably really speak to this even more, but as investigations go, they're dynamic, they're fluid, they're not always just A and B. If A, then B. Sometimes, I know you probably have too, have released information, what have you, and then detective calls you a little bit later, say, hey, just so you know, we realized maybe it didn't happen exactly this way. This is kind of the way it actually went.
Right.
And so then you put a correction out, and 9 times out of 10 it's pretty benign, but sometimes there's always somebody screaming up and down, hey, this is what you said first, and now it's this. What's going on, and really it's just a matter of making a simple correction.
Yeah. And communication is key. Again, retired Captain Burson always said PIO was the last to know and the first to go. Mm-hmm. So we're there for everybody, and we're one of the few people on our agency that are on call 24/7. I mean, even when we're on vacation, we take our phones with us, we answer those calls, and although we do have people that help us, sometimes it's easier and streamlines the process if we just handle it. Whether you're on duty or off duty, you just handle it.
Right, and you'll find that you'll hopefully start getting some people that now they can fill in, but have an interest in doing what you do, so that you can, not really an apprenticeship program, but kind of, to eventually somebody's going to fill your shoes one day, and that's going to be, kind of behoove you to really kind of get them going the right, just like you would with another detective, somebody that wants to be a detective someday. Right. So that's kind of a cool responsibility to have, I think.
Yeah, and I'm lucky at Jasper. I have Sergeant Chad Dick and Sergeant Lambert who were before
I've been
me.
There. Yeah.
And we've got a lot of young guys who are really articulate and good guys, and they wouldn't mind doing this job.
It's so hard to get police officers in general, but I can speak specific to troopers, is they don't want to toot their own horn per se, so they'll do something great. They'll help somebody. They'll make a great arrest, a great case, whatever it may be, and they're the last people that want to call me and say, hey, can you do a news release on this? And we want just the exact opposite. It's not about bragging or tooting your horn. It's about that positivity that we're doing in our communities.
Yep.
I found that when I was a detective, we didn't put a lot of stuff out because we didn't want to be braggadocious or to have everybody know what we're doing.
Yeah, but now you see the other side.
Yeah, and so I'm trying to get our detectives, because I'm from there.
Yeah.
Those are the guys I've worked with for the last 11 years.
You know what? You worked your tail off on this investigation for the last 7 or 8 months. Let's not. It's not about you. It's about the Indiana State Police. It's about this community. We want them to know that we've worked hard on this and we're proud of it.
And we just had Shane Staggs. He's a detective at Jasper. Mm-hmm. He just solved a great case.
Yeah.
He arrested a guy on it, and we put it out there. But Shane's a pretty quiet type kid and didn't want a whole lot of publicity, but he did a great job on that.
Yeah, and again, it's not about the trooper. It's bigger picture than that. It's about the Indiana State Police and law enforcement in general.
And the public was relieved that we were able to make an arrest on that. And they wanted to know what was going on with it. So.
See, and now we have a channel direct to the public, right? We don't have to rely on the news media, although they're great partners, and we do need to continue to work with them. Information that we release can go straight to the public. They can sign up to get our news releases, and if you didn't know that, you can go on govdelivery.com and you can sign up to get our news releases. The same exact thing that the media reads at the same exact time that the media gets it, you could be getting it.
Yep, and you can also go to our website, in.gov/ISP, and a little window will pop up asking if you want to sign up. So yeah, absolutely, John, you're absolutely right. Plus, people can follow us on Twitter and Facebook.
Speaking of that, Dave, where can people find you on Twitter and Facebook?
I have no idea.
Okay. Well, his Twitter handle will be @ISP Jasper.
That's correct. And
or you can search Sergeant Dave Henderson.
Correct. And then my Facebook is the Jasper State Police Facebook page.
Okay. So Indiana State Police Jasper District Facebook page. Find him on there. Share, like him. Hopefully you like his content. I know he's going to be working hard to get content out there for you to continue to build those relationships. So we got about 40 seconds, Ron. Anything you want to wrap up here?
No, I would, I'd like to welcome Dave. Again, he's a fellow classmate of mine. December is going to be 26 years, Dave. It's been a long time.
Unbelievable.
Long time. It's been a heck of a ride, but I hope that you find a new challenge, and I know you'll find success in this next step in your career, and I congratulate you, and I wish you the very best.
I appreciate that.
Again, I want to echo those comments and welcome you to public information. And again, I've been doing it for almost 4 years now, and it seems like about 6 months. I'm still learning every day. Never hesitate to call and ask for help because
I have
I
found
still do it.
that the PIO community is very warming and you know wanting to come in.
So, hey, thank you very much, and appreciate you coming on.
Thank you,
Thanks
John.
for having me.